All right, good morning. First, I'd like to thank you for attending the first Uniformed Fire Officers graduation. Thank you to Fire Chief, various leaders from the different divisions within the organization for coming out, showing your support for not only the communications division, but the 10 employees that are graduating today. Today, we're here to celebrate and graduate 10 employees from the successful completion of the first ever Uniformed Fire Officer School. This morning, we're going to hear from various leaders within the organization and county government, and through their speech, you'll hear statements that will highlight the significance of this program and the achievement that your coworkers completed. The Uniformed Fire Officer Program highlights progression for the Emergency Communications Center. This position was designed to enhance an already excellent team of telecommunicators and help bridge the gap between OneSet 911 calls and field operations. Collectively, the 10 men and women sitting in front of you have embodied the core values of this organization and have tirelessly worked to retain knowledge, apply theory, and work for our common mission statement, and that truly is to provide the highest level of service to the citizens and visitors of this county. These employees have navigated a curriculum of information and terminology that was new. It was foreign. It was something none of them have been exposed to in their careers prior to taking this class. During their time in communications, they forged relationships with established and tenured members of our ECC team and leadership. They have truly represented themselves, their rank, and their reputation in the highest regard. As such, it is an incredibly humbling honor to begin this graduation ceremony and simply say thank you for taking that step and for bettering this organization. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. With that said, I'd like to welcome Chief Pickrell, Deputy Chief of Communications, for her remarks.
Welcome. So first and foremost, the fire chief has the camera out, so this can't be good. I feel like this is about to be revenge for yesterday when I posted him on Twitter. So first and foremost, welcome and congratulations to our graduates. I want to thank a whole lot of people. We're going to start with Chris just because I don't think many people understand how many hours Captain Kordick has poured into this program in trying to figure out the curriculum and trying to build relationships across the organization, across the ECC, to really make sure that these folks are successful once they start tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. So this is a tremendous step forward, I think, for us as a department, for us as a division. And I want to recognize Captain Kordick for all of the work that he has done and all of the energy that he has really poured into this program. So a round of applause for him. Now we can stop embarrassing him for a second. Beyond that, there are a lot of other people to thank for this program that got us to this point. So first and foremost, Chief Johnson for his support. I have heard about a UFO, I think, from the day he started. So this has been a goal of his since he came into the organization as the ops chief. So getting to this point has required a lot of negotiation, a lot of careful steps, a lot of strategy, because as we all know, getting things through the budget process can be difficult at best. So this is a big feather in our cap. So thank you to Chief Johnson. Thank you to Chief Williams and Chief Pro for their support of the program. As you know, we have borrowed all of you from operations. So thank you to Chief Williams for letting us have you for the past 21 days. Thank you to Chief Pro for his support of the program and getting this done. So to echo what I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of today, this is a big deal. This position is really a big deal for us as a department and specifically for me as the division head. I'm really excited to see this to fruition. So it's very infrequent that we get to do something really new and novel in the fire department. And all of you get the opportunity to do something that's never been done in Loudoun County before. So when you look back at your career, this is pretty cool. So thank you to all of you, because I know you've put in a lot of hours trying to learn material. You've put in a lot of long days and late evenings. So thank you for your commitment to this program. And I'm excited to see what each of you do once you get into the communication center. So Because I stand between people with more bugles than me and lunch, I'm going to keep it brief and just close with that. So again, thank you all for coming. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Chief Pickrell. Chief Johnson.
Few words to all of you. But I think a little history and a little explanation of why this job was so important, why this position of UFO was so important. People will ask, why? You know, there's a lot of things we got in budget over my years. And before that, so why is the job of UFO so important to me? I think so important to the citizens. I think that it warrants a little explaining with that. First and foremost, it has nothing to do with the ECC staff that we have today, the call takers, the dispatchers, the assistant supervisor, the supervisors, the leadership that we have in the ECC. Nothing. They all do a phenomenal job each and every day of what they do and how they manage our center. What, as I told you the first day, what the UFO brings is that operational experience that all of you have. And there's no rookies in this row. We won't go over ages, but there's no rookies in this row. All of you bring a lot of operational experience. Hazmat, tech rescue, ALS, day work administration, all the things that you do. So all of that is going to be relative when somebody calls 911, right? They're calling for an emergency or a problem. People don't, maybe a couple of people call say hi, but most of them call with some type of problem that we have to solve. Who's the first one that gets that problem? The communication center, right? It's not me, it's not the person on truck 20 or whatever it may be. It's you that have to take in that problem and then analyze it, figure out what to give them, what help they need, right? We told you the first day, just send something, right? Send a unit to send to the call, but you got to figure out what their problem is. They're always not very clear on what the problem is. You've already heard that by listening. You have to analyze, you have to be that detective and figure out what their problem is. And what we know about the dispatch center is in years past, almost all, and I'll look at Chris and some others, probably most of the people we hired as dispatchers in the years past probably were volunteers or had some fire department fire and rescue experience. That's just the way it was. You didn't get into the profession of taking calls if you didn't have probably some experience. Over the years, that has changed. We have people coming to work at the ECC that don't know the difference between a fire truck, an engine, and a ladder truck. That's not to blame them. That's just the fact of the matter that it's a job. And they come in, they don't have that operational experience. So how can we rely on a call taker or a dispatcher to come, put their headset on, sit down and answer that complex problem and figure out what to send with no fire EMS training, no fire EMS experience? They get it on the job training, to go a couple of ride-alongs, but all of you have been in this job, and I'm looking at this row, probably all of you have more than 10 years or more experience of doing what you do, and we still learn every day. So how can we rely on a call taker or dispatcher to handle that complex problem and analyze that problem and figure out what to send with no fire EMS experience? It was setting them up for failure, quite frankly. So what the UFO position brings is you're an encyclopedia. You're there as a reference to help that call taker, that dispatcher, that supervisor figure out, hey, this person says there's some tank of ammonium hydroxide leaking. What is that? Is that like something for peroxide you put on? No, that's pretty dangerous stuff, right? So those kind of things, that encyclopedia, that reference, that helpfulness that you'll provide to the folks up there. And I said, it's new. With any new program, there will be, what are they trying to do? The uniform folks trying to take over? And it's not that at all. I think you will be welcomed in time, if not already, as a reference. And I can remember, my time working in the center as a UFO, and the people felt really comfortable having you there because you're the security blanket. You're going to be the one that's going to analyze that EMS problem, that cardiac arrest, or that hazmat call, or the routine emergency, and help them navigate that issue and help them navigate that problem. And I know many have heard me said that when I came to Loudoun some over 7 years ago. It was one of the first people would ask me all the time, what do you miss the most about where you came from? And I really don't miss much, but I always said UFOs was my number one answer because it was that comfort level for the dispatchers. Again, it has nothing to do with the what they do today and what their qualifications are. They're very qualified. But just think of how their job as a dispatcher has changed over the years, right? In the years past, you took a phone call on a headset and you got on the radio with these Mike Carter's static cards that he developed, and you dispatch the call, and that was it. Now, look what's in front of you, right? 5 computer screens, some complex programs, how we take calls and how we dispatch calls, and the routing and all of that has changed. So the world of dispatching and call taking has changed phenomenally over the years. And so they're obviously have a lot to handle, and you bring another side of that operational experience to meld that together, the operational experience and the complex job of even taking and dispatching a call. Most of you know that some 3 or 4 years ago now, that we came before the Board of Supervisors, and the county had done a study to look at our system in Loudoun County and how that was translated into how we run our center. And nobody in the sheriff's office here, right? Good, I'm clear. So at the time, the report that came back from the third-party vendor said they had a lot of options, but really the nuts and bolts of it was you should become your own center, right? As many jurisdictions have a separate agency, which is the Office of Communications, and in many departments that's the way it is. I was all for it. I think that ultimately someday that's where we need to get to, not because we're doing anything wrong, but people that work in the ECC deserve the same treatment that a separate agency gets with that. And I think you could develop our own rules and things of that nature. Sheriff's Office was not in favor, so we came up with this universal call taker initiative, which was a step in direction because, as we all know, and this is important that you realize this, and Chair Rantle pointed this out in the day when we sat before the Board of Supervisors and we looked at this. So you're telling me that if somebody calls up with that's being a victim of domestic violence, that fire and rescue is going to take the call, we're going to ask if you have any injury, but then we got to transfer you over to the sheriff's office to handle the law enforcement side of it, and that's the way it is. Quite frankly, that's the way it is today for some matters. So we came up with universal call takers to basically train our fire folks in law enforcement and vice versa, train law enforcement dispatchers in EMS and fire calls. And that's not easy. Having done the job of a call taker, I was totally comfortable with the fire calls, pretty good with the EMS calls, but law enforcement, I was on an island, right? I didn't know how to deal with those law enforcement. I felt like I was an attorney and a counselor and all this stuff, and it was very difficult. So that still, you are coming in at the ground level of the Universal Call Taker program, and you're going to have to deal with that yourselves, right? And help the law enforcement dispatchers with the fire and EMS calls, and vice versa. They will help you and help our folks with the law enforcement calls, because they're not easy. They are very difficult to deal with and understand how law enforcement does their job. We know how they do it on the street level, but not on that the calls and stuff like that. So I truly echo what Chief Pickrell said about you guys and girls are on the ground level. You're going to set the stage for how this UFO program, starting tomorrow, it's a 24/7 position that will hopefully never end, and there'll be lots of people after you, but you truly are setting the stage for a program that is a totally new program. Again, we don't get to do that really often in counties where we develop a new program and get that. We have lots of people to lean on. There are UFOs in other localities that surround us. Get friends with them, reach out to them. You have the full authority to reach out to them and learn how they do business, learn what their pros and cons are. It's a rotation, right? People come in, they don't stay there forever. They get promoted just like normal uniform people. But reach out to those folks. Montgomery County has them, Fairfax, and some other localities, a lot of other jurisdictions. Learn from what they do. It's not going to be perfect on day one, never is. But just continue to make it better, right? Keep the ball rolling, continue to roll that ball, and always, always, always remember that we all work for the citizens of Loudoun County. And at the end of the day, we're going to send a unit. We've already drilled that into you. We're going to send somebody to handle their emergency or non-emergency. At the end of the day, we work for the citizens, and we're going to do what the best interests of those citizens are to get them the fire and rescue or law enforcement help that they need. And just remember, we talked about this in Officer Development School. It doesn't matter if they're calling for their house on fire. That's kind of obvious that they need our help. But when they call and say Grandma or Grandpa fell out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's the third time you've been there that day, you know what we're going to do? We're going to send a unit to pick Grandma or Grandpa off the floor. If they call because their smoke alarm beep at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know what we're going to do? We're going to send somebody out there to reset their smoke alarm or put a battery in their smoke alarm. That's what we do. 24/7, 365 days a year, all about customer service, all about. And we preach this to the graduates or to the incoming class. We've done this countless times. You are the voice of Loudoun County. Maybe not you because you're not on the radio, but your dispatchers and call takers that will be there with you are the first voice that somebody's going to hear when they're having an emergency. That person. And that person really represents me as the fire chief. It represents the county administrator, the chairwoman or chair of the board of supervisors. It represents all of us. If you're mean and nasty, then everybody in Loudoun County is mean and nasty. If you're nice, then that represents all of us. So you will have a lot of guidance and interaction with the call takers, dispatchers, supervisors, and all the staff at the ECC. You're in that quasi-supervisory mode where you don't supervise them directly, but you will have that one-on-one relationship, that interaction with them, and you have a responsibility to obviously do the right thing. So hopefully I kind of laid out how important it is to me. I think you can see my passion about it. I'm very passionate about the ECC. It's part of my history. It's part of my family's history. I think it's, again, I don't know if we do anything more important than take the call and dispatch units. Nothing happens without that. So this is Telecommunicators Week. It's a big deal to represent and recognize our folks. You are part of that telecommunicator family now, even though that's not your title. You are really part of that family. I also would like to go back and thank Captain Kordak. His only problem was that he volunteered because he thought all the algorithms were screwed up over the years when he first started. So we kind of worked him to death. Then we Chief Williams over the years, and hey, Chris, come up here and get this right. He sat on the committees and he's very passionate. So when it came time to develop UFOs, I really don't think we gave him a choice. He had to volunteer at that point. But he truly has, as Chief Pickrell said, taken the ball and run with it. And I think we all benefited from it. He has put a lot of hours and time into this to making you all successful. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chief Pickrell and Chief Pro, for all your guidance on doing this. And so the county administrator walked in, so I would ask that he come forward and give a few comments. I tried to stay away from what he was going to say. So Mr. Hemstreet, if you want to come down. All right, well, good. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. I'd like to invite Assistant Chief Travis Pro.
Is that fine? All right, excellent. So how's everyone doing? So first I want to thank all of you for your participation in these couple, 2-3 weeks. For those of you that have had an opportunity to know Captain Kordak, you understand his personality. I am new here. My first interaction with Captain Kordak was during the interview for this position, and I do not believe there's another person with as much unbridled passion for communications in this organization. So I want to thank you for that. Captain Kordak has been here for about a month or so before you all got started, kind of getting the program, a little bit longer than that, to get the program up and running before you all started. And he's a force to be reckoned with. I don't know if in his planning that he designed for this graduation to occur during Telecommunicator Week. If he did, phenomenal. Thank you again. But I do want to take this opportunity, as the fire chief said, you are not telecommunicators, but you joined the family of telecommunicators. So there are a number of you that are in the back room. I did a little thank you promo video. Please don't watch it, or I apologize. And for you here, thank you for what you do. So I speak real briefly. So there's a couple kind of two big, what I call our Super Bowl Sunday events in the fire service. The two Super Bowl Sunday events are one, an opportunity for us to respond to a working fire where there is someone trapped and we're able to remove them from the building and they have another birthday, right? So working fires with entrapment where we have a successful outcome, that's a Super Bowl Sunday event. The other Super Bowl Sunday event is a cardiac arrest, right? That's when we arrive and someone's heart's not beating, they're not breathing on their own, unmitigated, we know what the outcome's gonna look like, right? So those are our two big Super Bowl Sunday Sentinel events. And that's where I think you all will have a real opportunity to make a difference in someone's lives. So because we're at the Academy, right? And I think every time you're at the Academy, you should get an opportunity to get CE. You got a CPR card, right? Or you should. So you ever heard of the American Heart Association's cardiac chain or survival. You ever heard of that? Dare I ask you what they are? But I'll tell you because I have a cheat sheet in front of me, right? And that's what the person in front of me. So there are 5 steps. The last step we'll take off because that's doctors and hospitals and stuff. The first step is early access. Early access, early recognition. Second step, immediate high-quality CPR. The third step, rapid defibrillation. The fourth step, that's the ambulances and the fire truck. Right? The firefighters, we really hold, firefighters and paramedics, right? We hold ourselves in high regard. We are the 4th step of the chain of survival. The 4th step. Who's the first step? Step 1, step 2, and step 3 are all lay people. Those all happen in the field. The first step are access to 911. When someone calls 911 and describes an emergency, describes the emergency where someone's heart's not beating, someone's house is on fire, someone's not behaving normally, that's when you folks have the first opportunity to intervene and change the outcome. I told you when I had an opportunity to meet with you that the whole reason we created this program was not to have UFOs. It was not to be like other people. It was to leverage the capabilities of the organization to improve outcomes. We wanted to change the outcomes. We wanted to give other people an opportunity to have another birthday. So last Saturday, we had a birthday party with a 15-year-old girl who experienced one of our Super Bowl Sunday events. That's a young lady that was in a fire that we had the opportunity to go in and alter the course of her life. Right? She had another birthday. Her birthday was a week or so, 5 days after the fire was her 15th birthday. So I will close with, not every day that you go to work will you have an opportunity to save someone's life. You won't, right? Some days you will sets and reps, but you will have an opportunity every day to affect someone's life. The fire chief said, when someone dials 911, that first contact, that is generally most people don't call 911 very many times in their lives. Most. We have our frequent flyers, but most don't call 911 very often, right? So every time they interact with the firefighter, every time they interact with the paramedic, every time they interact with a member of the ECC, they become the new face of Loudoun County. They become the face of the organization. The folks that dress like us, act like us, drive cars, look like us, we're all the same to the public. We're all the same. So I ask you to leverage all of the capabilities that you have to improve the outcomes. That's the mark I'm going to ask you to leave on this community, is improve the outcomes. All right? Thank you, folks, for what you've done.
Thank you, Chief. Miss Patty Turner, I respectfully ask that you come down here to the front of the stage. Okay, as you guys have heard by two key national telecommunicator. So, in full transparency, 4 years ago, I knew the communications center by one name, and that is the 911 center or communications. I had no idea who worked there, how it operated, the parts and pieces to the puzzle that make us go to emergencies every day. Over the last year and a half, I've had the opportunity to meet the leadership within the communication center, the teams and the personnel assigned to the communication center and the supervisors. And I can genuinely say I had no idea the depth of their job and the responsibility and burden that they carry on a regular basis. So as a part of this program, I'd be remiss if I didn't stand here and acknowledge 3 people in this room: Patty Turner, the ECC manager, Chris Cross, the assistant ECC manager, and Jeannie Cooper, the training coordinator assigned to the ECC. I'd also like to point out Assistant Supervisor Gwen Spencer in the back and Dispatcher Denise Gay that's sitting in the back. I recognize these people because I can't sit here and tell you this program would be as successful as I believe it is without their help and their support and their willingness to train these 10 uniform supervisors. So, Patty, on behalf of the class, I hope you accept this gift. Yes, ma'am. All right. I'd like to welcome Mr. Hemstreet to the stage, Fire Chief Johnson to the stage, Chief William to the stage. We'll begin our presentation of certificates. Yeah. I'd also like to welcome Battalion Chief Lamb, Deputy Chief Pickerel, and Assistant Chief Crow. You're welcome. All right. 2022 Uniform Fire Officer Class Number 1. Carol Brown II. Congratulations. Lieutenant Christopher Frack. Congratulations. Yes, sir. Lieutenant Jeffrey Johnson. Congratulations. Lieutenant Jason Lovelace. Lieutenant Stanley Trey Metton. Captain Rodney Scott. Captain Jacob Fear. Lieutenant Andrew Carvel. Captain Todd Winter. Ed. Lieutenant Kelly Yelton. Congratulations. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for showing your support to not only our 10 employees that are graduating uniform, first ever Uniform Fire Officer Academy, but the fire department as a whole. Thank you to the communication staff, the supervisors, the dispatchers, the team that's working today under the direction of Supervisor Steiger and Assistant Supervisor Brosan. I know you guys are listening, and I appreciate all the help that you've contributed. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chiefs. Thank you, Mr. Hemstreet, very much for supporting the fire department. We truly appreciate this opportunity.